Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're going to start talking about a few of the major players over the next several videos about this opportunity that we have to look at a global crisis that is affecting hundreds of nations all across the globe and players that are involved in key decisions, key roles that are affecting so many of us. And we can start seeing the tension that is between a lot of different individuals, factions, organizations, and all of that. Again, all of this information is what I allude to in my book, The Deathless War. It's really a survival guide for the final battle between good and evil. But what it really helps is to identify and start preparing for extremely difficult times on the horizon. And obviously in this video series that we're going to talk about this who's who, we'll first talk about in who's who, we'll see how far it goes, how many videos that we have on it talking about the different individuals. But we want to identify people and organizations that are part of this current battle that we see unfolding. This will give us a tremendous opportunity to be able to see and project things in the future. We'll be able to gather a lot of great information and intel and understand and identify things to look for in the future that will help us to be better informed. If you read the Bible, you already know where humanity is headed. And if you believe the Bible, then you already know that there's no way to circumvent the end. It's coming, it's on our horizon somewhere, and all signs point to the fact that those of us that are alive right now, we are part of that final generation that is going to see all of these things play out. So it's very, very important, again, to get yourself prepared for all this. So I think it's pretty simple to say the first individual that we need to take a look at is the President of the United States, the 45th President, Donald Trump. This could not be a more polarizing individual on the face of the planet right now. But as far as the battle between good and evil is concerned, it seems to me it's very, very apparent that Donald Trump is the firewall that has been put up with the intent of stopping evil from spreading globally. Now, even though, again, in this global pandemic that we're currently in, we're seeing just about almost every nation is affected. I think we're talking about 180, 190 some nations that are involved, have issues with this right now. So we'll talk about the different conflicts between a lot of them, but it's very, very important, first and foremost, obviously, to identify the President of the United States. Now, the United States obviously was founded on Judeo-Christian values throughout our history. We have certainly, we have in God we trust, imprinted on our money. Again, that's a whole another rabbit hole to talk about a lot of things with our government and the infiltration of bad actors into our government, and how that is over hundreds of years, and certainly within the past 100 years and last few decades especially, it has been infiltrated to no end. This was Donald Trump's campaign promise to go to Washington and drain the swamp. Now, it's very important to understand that individuals, whether you like them or not, and I was absolutely not a fan of Donald Trump before he was elected. There's obviously a lot of things about him that I never liked. And there's a lot of people that are like that. But I'm not going to focus on I'm not going to take a political stance one way or another, because that's, again, looking and identifying this conflict on a surface level. I want you to be up here where you're looking down on what's happening in the world and you're understanding what's happening. So it's important to always have that 30,000-foot view looking down. Donald Trump absolutely is an individual that was put in place by God as a firewall to stop evil from spreading. Franklin Graham, the day after, probably the day of, but I believe I read it the day after, talked about the reason that there was rain on the inauguration was that rain was a symbol of God's favor. Just like, farmers need rain, and they pray for rain for their crops, and it's obviously a blessing. This was something that he identified as a individual that certainly knows an awful lot about the Bible. And it was from day one telegraphed to many people that, like this individual as a man or not, was not important. The firewall was drawn and put into place to, yes, drain the swamp, if you want to call it that, but to put a firewall up in the world, to put a firewall up so that evil could not just relentlessly pursue their agenda. And we certainly, through a lot of current events, we know there's potentially an awful lot of individuals that have infiltrated into the government of the United States. And many of them are in a situation where they are now being exposed to have potentially tried to overthrow the government and unseat a duly elected president. So I'm far less interested in the President of the United States as a man as I am with the institution of the presidency and the conflict that is obvious. There are so many people that cannot stand this man as an individual, but further than that, they cannot stand the roadblock that has been put in place, the firewall, if you will, that has been put in place to look at, to move forward a global agenda. There's so many people in governments in other countries, in businesses, in organizations, people on the ground and grassroots organizations, whatever. All of these individuals, and this is something that I talk about in my book, is very, very important to understand. You can always see a movement that is controlled by individuals through their dimensional form when these same recurring themes keep occurring in organization after organization, after government, after individual, and these people are spread out all over the world. That's when it should come to mind right away, and it should telegraph to you that something in the dimensional realm is happening. We cannot look at newspapers to understand it, but what we can do is, again, have a 30,000-foot view looking down saying, something in the dimensional realm happened. And individuals all around the globe who are not connected to each other in any way, shape, or form, some of them vehemently disagree with each other, but they come together moving forward in a specific manner towards some specific goal and agenda. Sustainability, the green movement, is one such movement. Decades ago, we had passive solar energy, active solar energy. These were architectural concepts I studied in school 40 years ago. And after all this time, we've had active solar panels that do not create any more energy, a little bit more, than they did 40 years ago. It's still the same arcane technology. But we were taught, over those period of 40 years, this green movement, global sustainability, the heating up of the planet, whether you believe in that or not, this has just infiltrated into so many industries, into so many governments. We did a European cruise last year, and all of these Baltic nations, they talked about global warming and sustainability. We would be on buses and they were talking about global warming, sustainability. The people in those nations have just been inundated with it. I mean, can you imagine here in the United States, people just constantly, every single day, pounding into your head, the world is getting warm. We need to do something about it. Well, that's a multi-trillion-dollar industry that potentially money could funnel to individuals that are pushing those agendas. So it's things like that that we need to look at and say, why in the world are all these people all over the world focusing in on that? Typically, it has to do with money. I don't think this current situation that we're in is any different. There are lots of individuals that want to see the United States gone. There's lots of individuals that want to see Donald Trump gone. And he is holding the line right now, like this man or not. He's simply buying time for humanity before we get to a future destination that we know is going to be very, very difficult and really bordering on horrific things that we've never ever seen or experienced before, which again is the reason and the importance of getting yourself prepared for this. So again, I think the one person that we need to concentrate on, we need to look at, we need to see how this individual continues to hold this line, hold the firewall, and an individual I think that we need to pray for the protection of because of these individuals that are obviously after him. The President of the United States, that position, the United States as a whole, holding this line temporarily. We're not sure how long this is going to last, but holding this line is very, very important for each and every one of us to really make a concerted effort. Certainly to pray for the president, pray for the United States, and pray that we get over this current situation and we learn a lot from what has happened. And moving forward in the coming years and decades, we prepare ourselves for future situations that could be on the same level or increase much greater than the current situation that we're in. Okay, that's the first individual we need to recognize who's who in this current battle that we're going to study. Okay, thanks for your time. I'll see you on the next video where we'll talk about the number one force against Donald Trump. See you then.